Today's date is April 2nd, 2018. Hello and welcome to another episode of Hit the Books Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
And we are here to give you all the saucy deets on everything comics this week. For those of you unfamiliar with the show, this is your weekly comic book podcast where Emery and I, and perhaps a guest, go through the latest news, the new comic book releases for your local comic book shops,
Please support your local comic book shops.
and discuss some topics about the world of comics for your amusement. If that sounds like a good time, be sure to hit like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and rate well elsewhere. It really does help us out. You can always find us on YouTube, Stitcher, and on iTunes. And be sure to check out our website, www.htbvids.com, where you can find links to all of these things, as well as plenty of written content and lists on the homepage. Emery, what have you been reading?
A funny story. I actually did not get to do any reading this week.
Me neither.
Oh, man.
And let me reassure you, fans, that's okay. You can go a week and not read some comics sometimes.
Right.
In our case, it's more of a financial thing this week.
Of course. Otherwise, definitely would have gotten the, at the very least, Ghost Rider, Johnny Blaze, #1,
The
Damnation.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Damnation tie-in, of course.
Oh, I hope it's still out there.
I probably would have grabbed the Doomsday Clock issue, but yeah, we can always pick it up later.
Oh, yeah.
And talk about it next week. Outside forces outside of our control, just
Yeah, finances, Easter, that whole thing. It just, sometimes it happens,
But I have done one thing.
What is that?
In my spare time, I managed to marathon the Amazon version of The Tick and watch the complete series. Man, oh man, that series is so good.
Right?
Tick doesn't deserve to have a series that good. It is so damn good. It's not only is it funny and humorous like you would expect,
Yeah.
but it's actually well made and like kind of heartwarming.
It's
And
literally better than it has any right to be.
it is a better caricature of main company comic books than anything else I've seen, including the original Tick comic book.
Yeah.
It is so
Oh my God.
good. If you have not watched the Amazon Prime Tick show, you need to be watching that show.
Do it.
Even if you're not a comic book person and you just like want to see comic books be kind of made fun of while still like having a good like heartwarming story, you gotta watch it. It is so
yeah.
good. And if you have Amazon Prime, it's completely free on there,
Yes.
So
Fringe benefit. You get to, for free, because of that one time you wanted something to come to you quickly through Amazon, you get to watch something awesome.
Yeah.
Like The Tick.
Really awesome.
Which is something I never thought I'd say.
And if I like the old like Fox one that was kind of like over the top and goofy with Batman and everybody.
My favorite mayor of Gotham.
But it was an acquired taste, to say the least. Like
Yes.
you had
yes,
to be
it was.
really in the mood for that type of humor and that
Like,
type of show.
Really,
Yeah.
really in the mood of like 14 to 16-year-old.
Yeah, you had to have that like really over the top sense of humor, like almost Monty Python-esque, that sort of humor. But this new one,
Patrick Warburton definitely laid it on thick.
yeah, I think the new one is just fantastic, and it's probably my favorite thing to come out of like the streaming services recently. It's just, I understand it's a
Yeah.
little old now; it's like a year old or something, but it's great.
Oh, it's actually not that old at all. The last, the back half of the episodes came out February.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's worth it.
Yes.
If
Yes.
you are not watching this show, you need to watch this show. And just like Overkill is great, like the whole dynamic with where everything's overly complicated and just like
Overkill is like
tragic.
super grimdark.
Yeah, and then he's got Danger Boat. He just like listens to EDM music about himself all day.
Danger boat.
Danger Boat. So good. This show is so great. I can't express to you. If you want
Oh my
something
God,
that's
yeah.
lighthearted but still a little heavy,
Yeah.
like as in terms of depth, you need to watch this show. It is so damn good.
Jackie Earl Haley, the guy who plays the Terror. I think this is the best thing he's done since Rorschach.
I love the whole whiplash thing they were doing in the middle of the episodes.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes,
Of all the things for him to do is like this is how we further add depth to this character. It is like, no, I need to be good at drums.
Oh man.
What?
I really want to
Oh
do
my-
like a full like in-depth review and discussion with you if we have the
Yes.
time.
Oh my God.
So look forward to that, fans. 'Cause
Yes.
that's something worth sticking around for. I'll probably type up a little review and put it on the website, but man, is it good. I was so thrilled with that show. Didn't read any comics because I was broke, but I already had the Prime membership for my student membership or whatever, and I was like, why not? Let's dive in. I got nothing better to do right now.
Right. I mean, it's already here, just waiting for you to watch it. Lo and behold, it's your new favorite thing.
It really is great. I can't recommend it enough. Amazon did a great job with that show. I haven't been as big a fan with the other Amazon shows. Like I watched like 1 or 2 episodes of the Mr. Robot show and the one about the future Nazis or whatever. I can't remember.
Oh, Man in the High Castle.
Man in the High Castle, yeah. I just they were just, I don't know, a little too over the top. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mood for them. I don't know.
I would say pass on those and skip straight over to Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams.
Electric Dreams, what's that about?
This is actually a series of standalone episodes, like each one of them contained in their own universe for telling each episode is a singular story. And it's it's kind of like Black Mirror, where there's an idea or a concept having to do with a certain piece of technology and what it would be like for it to just get way out of hand.
So it's like a sci-fi exclusive, like Twilight Zone, Black Mirror type thing?
Yes.
Okay. I'm totally down then.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
yeah.
I love both Black Mirror and I watch Twilight Zone every New Year's. Like, because Sci-Fi does the marathon or whatever, and even if I don't have cable or something at the time, I find a way to watch it. It's just a great tradition.
Yeah. To further sell that show, I literally just the other day got done watching an episode where the idea takes place in a post-nuclear war-esque apocalypse where this last batch of humans that are trying to desperately survive are having to deal with a manufacturing company that just can't stop sending its drones to wherever products need to be sent. I think there might be a
Little Amazon in there.
it might be a little bit of Amazon in there. And that show was on Amazon Prime.
Damn. Scathing. So, yeah, I'll probably check that out. It's cool.
Yeah.
Right now, the only subscription service I have, again, because of financial issues, is the Amazon Prime, which is just lingering. So I already paid for it. But.
Oh, yeah. Use it. It's got a lot of gems in there.
Well, this is usually where we have our latest segment, Did the Content Match the Drapes, where we evaluate whether a cover or variant cover of the week award winner had content as good on the inside as the outside. Unfortunately, we didn't read any comics this week, so no new updates for you.
Not yet.
We'll give you some next week, for
Yes.
sure. With that, let's get into the news.
Ooh.
Just in time for Easter, a dedicated fan found a previously undiscovered Easter egg in the 2014 Guardians of the Galaxy movie. During the Stan Lee cameo, there is a scroll script that hovers over him. The phrase translates to Excelsior.
Oh, God damn it.
Director James Gunn confirmed the Easter egg, but proclaimed fans have still not found the biggest one. So, if you like watching Guardians of the Galaxy, you might want to get to it. There's more Easter eggs that have not been discovered.
Oh, my God.
And that brings up the biggest question. Is Stan Lee a Skrull?
I mean, has he ever not been a Skrull? I mean, I think there's only one reason why we still have Stan Lee, is that it's not actually Stan Lee, but an alien just took his place.
That would explain why he's everywhere, right?
Yeah. it was
I
like
think-
the goal was probably to originally take us over, but then he saw, these movies are cool. I want more.
I think it's canon. It's canon.
It's canon.
Next up, the Fantastic Four will be returning
Oh.
with a monthly series via Marvel's upcoming Fresh Start. It is expected to debut in August and will be written by Dan Slott and drawn by Sarah Piccioli.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. What are your fears?
I was excited
Isn't this what you wanted?
right up until you told me Dan Slott was writing it.
Not a fan of Dan Slott? Elaborate.
Superior Spider-Man and shut the fuck up. Oh my God. I don't think I've ever been more mad at the concept of an entire story arc than
Now-
reading about Spider-Man being possessed by Otto Octavius.
Now, it's funny you say that because I know a lot of people that are primarily DC people that actually like that book a lot. But to be fair, I haven't talked to a lot of Marvel fans about it. So,
Let's take a hero, put a villain's brain in his mind,
not physically, just spiritually.
spiritually. Right. No, we're going to go spiritual with this shit. We're going to take the soul of fucking Octo Never-a-Dad and put him in the premier hero for all of Marvel. And
Why
watch-
do you want to step on his creativity? Okay, Emery? You got to let him spread his wings and fly, okay?
Why do you want a book where instead of trying to maybe teach Otto Octavius a lesson about what it means to be a hero, and instead have a book where we slowly watch Otto Octavius descend into power-drunk madness at the realization that, oh my God, I'm Spider-Man.
Doesn't he murder a lot of people too?
Yes.
I feel like he murders quite a few villains
I'm-
or potential villains.
I'm pretty sure he goes on what everyone else who doesn't know that he's possessed would call a justified murder spree. While also gathering henchmen and bots.
the biggest question.
How did no one see this?
biggest question here. Does he fuck Mary Jane?
No. No, he doesn't. He finds a very diminutive replacement.
Oh no. Who?
I don't know her name, but it's a midget.
What? What the fuck?
Nothing
So
against
he's got
dating
a fetish. Okay.
nothing against dating small people, but for reasons that are never explained other than the, oh, yeah, I want to take this other science girl home. Oh, what? You didn't think that it was okay or like a thing that I would do to just date someone who's like 3'6"? Oh, aren't you a bigot?
What?
Why?
I just feel bad for Peter.
Why did this conversation happen between Peter possessed by Otto and his Aunt May?
Okay. Maybe you're convincing me. That sounds horrible.
That sounds terrible.
But to be fair,
there's literally a joke about the concept of that being terrible that was slyly snuck into the latest Spider-Man movie. You remember the part where he's talking to the suit and it goes into like lethal mode and
with the eyes.
The eyes goes
Yeah.
like, no, why would I ever want to do that? Who would want that? Right. No
Wow.
one.
I didn't realize it was so controversial. God, that sounds horrible. Don't worry, though. You have the Terrifics on DC side.
Yay.
Don't deny the Terrifics. They're terrific.
Right.
Terrifically plagiarized. Yeah, it's just-
Look, don't get me wrong. I like the Fantastic Four. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to like off-brand Fantastic Four just as much.
Next up. After being viewed, the Lock and Key pilot has seen its second setback. Hulu has decided to drop the series. The pilot is currently being shopped to other networks. This follows, of course, in 2011, 2012, where Lock and Key got reviewed for a show series on Fox, and Fox also declined.
Aww.
Oh. If you are not familiar with the Lock and Key series, it's on Comixology Unlimited. So if you have that, it's a really cheap subscription service, and it just gives you a bunch of random like back volumes and stuff, like kind of like a Netflix for comic books. Don't
Yeah.
give you the brand new stuff, but they give you a lot of really good stuff
Yeah.
for really cheap. But that's how I got into the Lock and Key series, and man, did I fall in love with that book. It is so good. It is so fun, and I would pitch that book to anybody, even if you're not like the biggest comic book fan. There's no like prior sustained universe you got to catch up with or anything. It's just straight in isolated story within the books, but the premise situates itself perfectly for like a long series, like a season, 2 season, 3 season series. And
All right, give me your elevator pitch.
all right, basically these kids experience a very traumatic incident. I don't want to spoil it because it's a big like integral part of the first issue, but they go through this big traumatic experience. You know, there's 2 older teenagers and then there's a young kid, and in a way to try to get away from all that that you know, the horrific memories of what happened and everything, the mom and the kids pick up and they go to their father's childhood home, which is this big like crazy mansion up in like New England or whatever, and they're staying there at the request of the father's brother, I believe, so their uncle. And
Right.
the uncle lives a little ways away with his husband, and then he makes the trip back and forth from time to time to check in on him, make sure everything's okay. And again, they're still all trying to go through the motions of this traumatic incident. And the only one that's not seemingly affected is the youngest one, who's a little kid, you know.
Right.
But everybody else is kind of dealing with it in their own way. So basically, while they're going through the motions and trying to figure out this experience, they slowly but surely start to realize that there's something weird about this place, about this house, and there are things, there are objects
Uh-huh.
hidden and scattered throughout this house that have particular abilities.
Interesting.
And the first, I mean, it's in the title, Key.
Yeah.
The first one you really see that, I'm trying to remember because it's been a little bit since I read it, but the first one you really see is called the Death Door. And basically, if you put it into a specific door and turn the key, it opens a portal into what is essentially the afterlife.
The
So-
land of the dead.
So the little kid finds it first, you know, discovers it and is playing around with it or whatever, and puts it in the door and like walks through, and suddenly he's dead.
Ah!
And his dead unconscious body is just on the floor and his spirit is wandering around, and so he uses it to like comically spy on his sister and his brother and his mom, and like mess around with people and like go explore things. And basically, if you think of a place, you'll just show up there as
Yeah.
a ghost, basically. And so this becomes partially shenanigans, but also progresses the story in a natural way. And it's just the artwork's really great. The storytelling is really great. The visual effects of the house and like all the different keys and stuff is really great.
Yeah.
The antagonistic character is actually pretty creepy and pretty, discerning. And there's even some
Alright.
connections to like their father's childhood. So like while they're going through this whole circumstance, they're also kind of learning more about their father, who they didn't really get to know too well because he was always working or whatever else.
Yeah.
And kind of the adults that used to be in his life. So like it's also kind of heartwarming in a way because they're kind of learning about their father. But in another way, they're also kind of having their own unique adventure and experience and learning about the situation and the
Interesting.
antagonist, which, has connections to events in their life. So it's really pretty neat. And I would highly, highly recommend this book, Lock and Key, from IDW, I believe. It's an outstanding book, and I would happily reread it again.
I could see that as a television show, or maybe even take that first chunk and turn it into a movie.
Yeah. I think it would do well as a movie, but I think it would be really hard to sell like as big as it should be,
Yeah.
because I think it's one of those niche things that people don't know about it because it was just an IDW book and
Right.
it was an isolated story, not some big universe building thing.
Right.
And it doesn't kind of have the holiday gravity of like Walking Dead did with Halloween, where it's like the perfect
Yeah.
moment in time where people were crazy about the zombie thing and like it just blew up because everything was in place.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's really an optimal situation for Lock and Key to have that kind of experience.
Yeah. I think it would be the kind of thing that would need to find its audience in a streaming app or something like that.
Yeah, I thought the match with Hulu was perfect. I was like, that's a great match,
That-
and
that literally could have been
know.
their Stranger Things.
yeah, and to be honest, I kind of see it as kind of like it gives a lot of the feelings reading the book of like I did when I read the original Hobbit,
Yeah.
which preceded Lord of the Rings. The original Hobbit book gave me a lot of those kind of like adventure and thrill and danger and like dark stories, but like in a context that's very easily palatable, you know,
Yeah.
and not too heavy. It's kind of like that, and I really enjoyed it.
Ooh. Okay. If it's like gives you the same kind of feeling that The Hobbit gives you, then yeah, consider me sold.
Yeah, it's really good. So look out for that. Really bummed that it didn't get picked up, but maybe the quality just wasn't there. And if that's the case, I wouldn't want it to be made that way anyway.
Oh yeah, that's the one thing that can kill something is if the pilot is any kind of poor.
Next up, Mark Millar has announced he will not be working for Marvel or DC going forward. He's one of a few very famous creators that have done that. I think Alan Moore is the other big one.
Oh yeah, Alan Moore will never again.
He has dedicated himself to expanding the Miller World series and developing his titles for Netflix. As you know, he signed a big deal for the Miller World. We'll see how that goes. I say good riddance. And solely on the basis of the latest Kick-Ass title. It's like, it's awful.
Hit Girl.
Hit Girl's good,
Hit Girl's good.
to be
but
fair.
somehow, like the seminal title, like the thing that he is most known for, like him specifically, he is most known for Kick-Ass.
Yeah.
For him to go this route most recently is just.
And for those of you
Yeah.
unfamiliar, Mark Millar is the guy who's famous for creating the Kick-Ass series, the Kingsman series, the Superior, right?
Yes. Nemesis.
Nemesis. There's one other one I'm forgetting. What's the big one?
Did he do Wanted?
I think so.
I think that might have been
right.
him, yeah.
Yeah. But he's done a lot of like really, really big series that are real famous, and pretty much all have been either optioned for movies or made into movies.
Yeah.
And obviously you're probably going to see more of that with the Netflix subscription. So he's done a lot of great work. I don't want to discourage Mark Millar, but just his latest iterations and his latest, kind of ideas. It's just a little too Grant Morrison-y to me.
Skewing a bit too hard into the weird or just straight up nonsensical.
Yeah. So, which, to be fair, is kind of his cup of tea, but,
Makes sense.
Next up, the CW has announced a renewal of all of its superhero shows except for iZombie, which will be considered in May. This confirms that Constantine will be a series regular on the show DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Hashtag save Constantine.
Hashtag save Constantine.
We're so close.
Every day we grow
We have an animated series.
Closer.
We have a guest starring appearance on the next season of Legends of Tomorrow.
He's going to be a regular.
We just need his own series.
It's so close.
Matt Ryan.
Get
on it.
Yeah, keep grinding, bro. We got you.
The shows included are The Flash, Arrow, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow, Riverdale, which is the Archie adaptation, and Black Lightning. So, all those shows doing pretty well still. Well enough to get renewed, and to be fair, they're pretty much the only thing that hold up the CW. So,
at this point, yes. Also, I can't say it enough. Hashtag save Constantine.
True story. NBC just needs to let go.
Yeah.
Let CW take over.
Just let it happen.
And just make the show. It would easily be the best show on CW.
Right.
In my opinion.
And I know the perfect slot for it, too. Right after one of the big ones.
Next up. More delays have hit 20th Century Fox movie titles.
To the surprise of no one.
X-Men: The Dark Phoenix has been moved from November 2nd, which is also another delay, 2018, to February 14th, 2019.
You guys could cancel it.
That's what I've been saying. New Mutants has been moved 6 more months from February 22nd, 2019 to August 2nd, 2019. 6 months more. They just delayed it almost a year. It is now 16 months later than the original release date.
This is the kind of thing that makes me think, maybe this story made no sense at first.
I'm thinking maybe there's more to this reshoot thing than we're being told.
Probably.
And I think maybe execs are getting a little too big for their britches.
Maybe. Maybe let's just call it quits.
No.
Let's make Deadpool 2 the last one. Go out with a bang.
The Gambit movie is still being stymied by a lack of director. That movie's not happening.
Oh, my God. Just call me. For the love of God, just call me. I know exactly what that movie needs.
Large reshoots and casting schedules were the primary sources of blame. This is reportedly causing creative strife and clashing between the Fox executives and director Josh Boone. So originally, the original announcement of delays came from a very large approval of the kind of horror-centric trailer they had for the original New Mutants trailer.
Yeah.
And then Fox apparently said that they wanted to make it more horror-oriented as opposed to what it had originally been.
Yeah, to lean further into that tone that they had established.
However, I'm starting to doubt this a lot because recent reports have been saying that the real reason for the reshoots is because they wanted to add one more character to the main cast, and not as just like a cameo role, but as a starring role. And that character has a heavy connection to the X-Men Dark Phoenix movie, which they're trying to shove down our fucking throats, and nobody fucking wants.
I wonder what fucking character it is.
And they're trying to basically shove all of this shit into a movie that has already been made and produced and was already set to release. And now the director is scrambling to get this shit done with actors and
Oh my
actresses
God.
that are
It was like-
already scheduled for other projects, aka Justice League, aka Cavill mustache problems.
Oh no.
And not only is all of that happening, but they're still going through the approval process for the fucking Disney buyout. What are you doing?
I know, or I have a suspicion as to who exactly they're trying to add to all of these Fox titles.
Please enlighten our audience.
I think it's Mr. Sinister. I think it's Mr. Sinister specifically because of all of the characters that would have any kind of connection to all of them and kind of tie in to a kind of science/pseudoscience theme that they were pushing for New Mutants.
Yeah.
He would be the one.
Yep, I would agree.
Yeah.
I think it's a terrible mistake because nobody wants this Dark Phoenix movie. Please quit trying to insert shit into other movies that could potentially be great
yes.
and that we want
Yeah.
in order to service this fucking auxiliary movie we do not want.
Right.
We know about the buyout. We don't want any more X-Men shit until it's in the Marvel Universe.
Right.
Fox can fuck off. All right?
Stop.
You have
That's
Deadpool. You have the New Mutants. We're giving you that. You're supposed to have Gambit, but you're being dicks about it.
Yes.
Just let it go.
Just why don't we just all wait until they're in the house where they belong?
It's like we've already gotten the Phoenix storyline in your universe. We've already gotten it. We don't need it again.
This would be a third attempt at trying to actually nail down, like, trying to have a movie with that fucking Firebird in it.
Please stop.
And
No one cares about the sentient alien Firebird.
Actually, yeah, about that. In which movie do we establish that it's either alien or sentient? Neither fucking one. That's what.
Please stop. Please stop.
If you guys want to go into space,
I've been-
wait till you're a part of the actual Marvel fucking universe.
I've been saying this about the DCEU quite heavily because it's deserved. Please stop. Fox, I'm sorry, but you've gotten to this point.
Yes.
Please stop. Just give it a break. Let it rest. There's nothing coming out next year. Just give it a rest. Give everybody a breather to clear their palate before you get bought out by Disney. And then shoot. Go with your Fantastic Four and your X-Men and all your other bullshit you want to add. Deadpool is more than enough to tide you over. New Mutants and all your little TV shows like Legion and whatever else, Runaways. Like,
oh,
that's
Runaways
Marvel.
is with Marvel.
That's Marvel.
Thank God.
But just handle what business you got going right now until Disney buys you out, and then they can do what they need to do.
Right.
Stop.
Yeah. I do not need another season of The Gifted. I do not need, well, okay, I don't need it, but I do want another season of Legion. I would just prefer it being done by Marvel.
Please.
With that said, the first season of Legion is actually better than it has any right to be.
So, if you were looking forward to those movies, and we were looking forward to New Mutants,
Yeah.
sorry. Next up,
More like sorry, not sorry.
it's the weekly delay time segment of the news.
Are we just going to make this a segment?
Yeah, because comic companies just can't stop delaying shit.
Oh, God. Okay.
All right, first up, Catalyst Prime Noble number 10 from Lion Forge Comics has been canceled.
Ooh.
So that kind of sucks. Next up, the finale of Astro City, which is number 52, has been delayed by DC Comics. It is now set to premiere a month later on May 16th of this year.
Ouch.
I hate these delays. Like 1 or 2 weeks you can kind of get over, when it's like a month, you just
Yeah.
completely forget about the fucking book. And it just kills the book.
Move on to something else in your life.
And finally, this one breaks my heart, but we already knew it was coming. The Wildstorm number 13 has been delayed an additional month. It will now premiere on May 16th, 2017. Oh. Grifter.
It burns.
Grifter. No. But yeah, it's a great book. Unfortunately, they're not giving it any leg to stand on with all of these delays. And that, my friends, is the news.
Oh, what's that? We have a call. A call from a local comic book shop. I think they're asking, what books are we hitting up this week?
Well, Emery, I thought you'd never ask. From Marvel Comics, we have Honey Badger.
No!
I mean, all new Wolverine number 33 featuring Honey Badger.
No!
Fucking stupid. Please stop. Next up, we have Ant-Man and the Wasp Prelude number 2.
Because we need people to watch that movie.
We have Astonishing X-Men number 10. We have Avengers number 687 with a pretty neat cover. We have Avengers, The Shards of Infinity number 1. I don't know if that's a movie tie-in or not, but it kind of looks like one. Not really sure.
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
We have Black Bolt number 12, which I believe is the final issue of that run. So if you're a Black Bolt fan, you might want to pick that up.
Also, if you're a Black Bolt fan, what the hell is wrong with you?
Next up, we have Iron Fist number 79. We have Marvel 2-in-1s featuring half of the Fantastic Four number 5.
Ooh. Oh, that's right. The 2 will become 4 soon.
Well, in August. Still quite a wait there.
And it's soon.
We have Rise of the Black Panther number 4. We have Rogue and Gambit Switch Outfits number 4.
Stop.
I wonder if he's wearing her underwear. I bet he is.
I hate you for asking that question.
That dirty Creole.
Next.
Next up, we have Runaways number 8. We have Spider-Man number 239. We have Star Wars number 46. We have The Amazing Spider-Man number 798. We have The New Mutants Dead Souls number 2. We have The Punisher number 223. We have Venom number 164. We have Venomized number 1. We have X-Men Gold number 25. And that wraps up Marvel. From DC Comics, it's finally the wedding week. So if you give a shit, pick up these issues.
Yeah, about that.
We have Batman number 44 with the wedding Bruce and the wedding Catwoman as the variant.
Here comes the bride, all dressed in stolen stuff.
I like how our wedding dress is black.
Did you expect anything else?
Well, leather.
You're not wrong.
Next up, big release. Batman White Knight number 7.
Get hyped.
Oh, we're so close to the end, and I don't want it to end.
All right. Oh.
Why is it only 8 issues?
Well,
Oh,
let me get 4 more.
so good. Next up, we have Black Lightning, Cold Dead Hands, number 6. We have Bombshells United, number 15. We have Curse of the Brimstone, number 1, part of the new age of DC Heroes, which is looking like a Ghost Rider ripoff.
Whatever gave you that impression?
Oh, just the Fantastic Four ripoff and the Spider-Man / Nightcrawler ripoff and the Hulk ripoff that we've gotten so far.
Oh, you have something against a person from a podunk town making a deal with totally not the devil and getting fire demon powers?
You're right. I don't have a problem with it. Next up, we have Cyborg, number 21. We have Deathstroke versus Batman, Number 30,
That's what it should be called.
we have Exit Stage Left, The Snagglepuss Chronicles. Number 4,
Ooh.
the variant featuring a long-necked ascot. How fancy.
Ooh,
Wait.
Snagglepuss.
We have Green Arrow, number 39. We have Green Lanterns, number 44. We have Harley Quinn, number 41. We have Injustice 2, number 23. We have Justice League, number 42. We have Nightwing, number 42. We have Spider-Man, number 44.
Wait a minute.
Excuse me. Did I say Spider-Man?
I think you said Spider-Man.
I meant Superman. How dare I? Thank you.
How dare you?
Thank you. Number 44. And we have The Jetsons, number 6.
Wait, what?
Don't you hate on The Jetsons?
I didn't know. How long have they been doing the Jetsons?
6 issues.
Oh my God.
They were doing Scooby-Doo, so they decided to do The Jetsons too.
I guess we're just gonna do all Hanna-Barbera. I guess.
Next up, we have Agent 47, Birth of the Hitman, number 5.
Well, buddy.
Almost guaranteed to be better than the movies. We have Deja Thoris, number 3, if you want boobs.
Or if you're a fan of the John Carter Princess of Mars, that whole deal.
We have Green Hornet, number 2, which I think you were pleasantly surprised with on issue number 1, right?
Yes. Yes, it was. And yeah, I'm going to check issue 2 out.
Sweet. We have Killer Instinct, number 6, based on the video game. We have Red Sonja, number 14, with 6 million boobs as variants.
Wait a minute. She has 6 million boobs?
She does now.
Oh my God.
Next up, we have Swashbucklers, The Saga Continues, number 1. And that wraps up Dynamite. From Image Comics, save us, Image. We have Analog, number 1. We have Black Cloud, number 8. We have Elsewhere, number 6. We have Gideon Falls, number 1. We have God Complex, number 5. We have I Hate Fairyland, number 18. We have Isola, number 1, which has a pretty awesome variant cover, by the way. Very
Looks pretty awesome.
fantasy adventure-y, almost saga-like. Next up, we have Motor Crush, number 11. We have Ringside, number 15. We have Scales and Scoundrels, number 8. We have Sex Criminals, number 23. We have Snot Girl, number 10. We have Spawn, number 284.
Brr, so metal.
We have The Walking Dead, number 178. And we have The Wicked and the Divine, number 35.
For those of you who want to get weird.
In a good way.
Oh, yeah, of course, in a good way.
From IDW Publishing, we have Huge Jacked Man. I mean, Demigod, number 1.
Starring Huge Jacked Man.
We have, let's see here. So many variants. We have the new premiere of IDW's Sonic the Hedgehog, which gained the rights to Sonic not too long ago.
Hooray.
Number 1. I might pick it up. I like Sonic. And that wraps up IDW. From Boom Studios, we have Giant Days, number 37. We have Mech Cadet U, number 8. We have Rugrats. R is for Reptar, number 2018 special, number 1.
Interesting.
We have WWE WrestleMania 2018 special, number 1, brother. Get hyped. Next up, from Dark Horse Comics, we have Dr. Star and the Kingdom of Lost Tomorrows, number 2.
Interesting.
We have another cool release here, Incognito Renaissance, number 3. Really great noir storyline about a character who's very light-skinned but black and works for the local black paper in what's not Manhattan, Northern Manhattan.
Harlem.
Harlem, thank you.
Yeah.
I live there and I can't remember what it's called. But it's like a cool noir murder mystery thing, and since he's light skinned with a hat, he can kind of blend in with both groups, and so he just kind of gets all the intel. And
Hence the phrase incognito.
but yeah, it's a great book. Pick it up.
Pick it up.
We have Koschei, the Deathless, number 4. And we have Xerxes, Fall of the House of Darius, number 1. From Vertigo, we have Astro City, number 51. Remember, Astro City number 52 has been delayed a month, so you won't see that one till May. And then we have Shade, The Changing Woman, number 2, which I believe is part of the Animals line. From Titan Books, we have Fighting American, The Ties That Bind, number 2.
America.
You know what comes next.
Yeah, you do.
And that is all of your comic book releases coming to your local comic book shops
Again, please support your local comic book shops.
and digital devices this week. Now it's time to hand out the prestigious, nay life-changing award of cover and variant cover of the week. Who will win it this week?
Ooh.
First up, the lauded and beloved cover of the week award goes to Iron Fist number 79 from Marvel Comics. This cover illustrated by Jeff DeCall. Or Deacle.
Deacle?
Like
Decal?
like Deacle matter.
No. No. No.
DEKAL. Hopefully. I'm going with DeCall. It sounds cooler.
Yeah.
And Jeff, if you're listening, you should too. Much cooler than Deacle.
Yes, please.
But getting
Yeah.
to the cover, Iron Fist has had some pretty awesome covers
Yes.
every month that I've seen it. And I just want to give that premise a shout out from the beginning. There have been some really great covers from this book. For whatever reason, every time it releases, there's something a little bit better, and it just gets edged out by something else. But assuming Jeff DeCall has been doing all of these covers, he's done a great job. And I think this one is just another example of great work. And I wouldn't even say it's the best of the kind of Iron Fist covers that have been coming out, but I think this one is really solid. And it gets the added benefit of being a tie-in to a series we're really enjoying.
Oh, yeah.
Doctor Strange Damnation. So if you look at the cover, it's just a kind of first-person point of view of Iron Fist charging in to what I'm guessing is some kind of demon of some sort, if not.
Yeah, it looks like he's
Mephisto
about
himself.
to go 12 rounds with, the Dark Lord.
Yeah, there's some red spiny fists, that are about to probably fuck him up. Because let's face it, Iron Fist kind of sucks. And what we really need is a Blade.
Yes.
A Blade book featuring this art.
More Blade, please.
But yeah, this cover art looks awesome. It's just kind of that like very scenic, almost like Alex Ross kind of aesthetic, where it's just that kind of painted, heavily detailed action shot. And I just love everything about it. I mean, even down below the legs, you can kind of see like other demons like cackling or whatever, and probably betting because again they're in Las Vegas, and there's just blood everywhere where they've been fighting these kind of UFC matches. I'm guessing.
Yeah, it just. Oh my God, there's just something about the way that the cover it pops specifically when like one you take that first person view. But also, like, all of the things surrounding it, like you were mentioning, like you can tell very, like, sometimes there are details that are easily missed. In this case, the one that was almost easily missed were the points on the red hands. But also the details, like, right behind him, it looks like, as you were saying, people are cheering or, like, going like boo or whatever.
Yeah, jeering at him.
Yeah, and like the way that ties into the fact that this is taking place in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
It's just like it just adds that extra element of he's about to have the fight of his life.
Yeah, and I also really like that it's an action shot. It's
Yeah.
like usually when you get an action shot, it's usually from some very basic, like just run of the mill, cover.
Something
where
that should have just been a panel in the
yeah,
comic.
and they put some big words over top of it, like Batman's in trouble now, and then you're like, okay, we're not in the 50s anymore. Please stop doing this. But this is
Right.
not only is it a really cool action shot, but it's a very well detailed and very pristine piece of art in the form of an action shot. And like even the small stuff like painting on the kind of Ryu from Street Fighter, like headband tassels just dangling way out there. No martial artist would have that. Someone would grab the back of that and just pound your fucking face. But for the dramatic, action shot, it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, it looks dynamic. It looks amazing.
Yeah. So even though traditionally I think Iron Fist kind of sucks as a character, and I think his outfit is just kind of stupid.
We could have just had Shang-Chi. Like, that is a character in Marvel Comics that is just as good and doesn't need chi powers.
So, yeah, I don't like his silly green jumpsuit and the high yellow collars. I mean, the headband would be fine if that was the only part that was, like, bright yellow. But he's got, like, the dishwashing gloves. And, like,
Yeah. Honestly, I was a fan of, like, his original costume that had the popped collar popped all the way up to heaven.
if you're watching the YouTube channel, we'll post it here for you.
And, the gloves and the little foot sleeves that he was apparently rocking at that point. Slippers, that's what those are called.
How about a tight leather black flight suit
Don't you
for everybody?
Don't you fucking dare remind me of X-Men Apocalypse. God damn it.
But yes, big congratulations to Jeff DeCall. Your artwork has been consistently great, and this week you finally earned the coveted award of Cover of the Week. Next up, for the variant Cover of the Week,
Ooh, and the award goes to...
Huge Jacked Man,
Ooh, another huge jacked man.
in the form of Spawn, number 284, Mattina Virgin cover. This one done
so
by
metal.
Francesco Mattina, who has done a very, very almost 90s-esque, ridiculously jacked and menacing version of Spawn. And to be honest, it kind of looks like a Hulk wearing a Spawn costume.
Hey, kind of does.
But it's really well done. And the shading is great. The art is great. The paint looks great. The levels and the depth and the shading, just it all looks great. And as much as I want to hate on it for being the huge jacked like 90s version of Spawn, it looks so good. I can't.
Yeah. I have always loved what the Spawn comics have done with the color green. There's just something about...
Which is more than anybody else,
yes.
including Hulk.
This has been a series that has always had this love affair with the color green in such a way that it seems like it's just like it's seeping, it's pouring out of him. It's just like it's just straight demonic power. Just like it's like he can't contain himself.
Yeah.
It's just that element to it. It's just like the minute that I saw that on the cover, it was like, oh yes, someone gets it.
And in the description, the recreation of Spawn's arch-villain, the Violator,
Oh god.
with a new look and new powers.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Oh god.
Uh-oh.
Can we just not make him like someone who whispers John Leguizamo voice. Because of the 1997 movie, the movie that had a black superhero in it that for some reason gets overlooked because of Blade. And for good reason, because Blade was awesome.
And Steel. Hey, Superman, how's my ass taste?
Oh, God damn it, no. I thought we weren't going to talk about him.
I always find a way.
Oh,
I love Shaq. Never change, Shaq.
yeah, you will always be my favorite Irish actor. With that said, Spawn! Spawn was so hardcore. And I'm pretty sure Spawn and Green Lantern, to a slightly lesser extent, are the reason why green is one of my favorite colors.
Interesting. So not only did you get a great variant cover of the week, you got a nice little backstory into Emery's childhood.
Oh, yeah. I love the color of green, and it is not because it's the color of money.
But
Those
yeah,
two things are unrelated.
Francesco Mattina, you have done great work, and it is well deserved
Oh, yes.
in winning the Variant Cover of the Week award this week, and same to Iron Fist number 79 for the regular Cover of the Week award by Jeff DeCall, not Deacle. I'm dedicated to saying it's not Deacle. No one likes Deacle matter.
Oh, my God.
I'm gonna keep making that joke.
It
though.
keeps happening.
It's so fun. And for our new friends out there, this is the part of the show where we each discuss a topic of our choosing about the world of comics. Emery, what? You know what? I'm going to skip you this time.
You're going to skip me.
Yeah, I'm going to skip
Okay,
you.
okay.
We can come back to you. Going to do something really rude because I can. Change of pace. We had a fan write into us, as all of you can, if you so choose. Remember, you can contact us on Twitter at HTBVids. You can contact us on Facebook at facebook.com/hitthebooks, all one word. Or you can email us at hitthebooksvids, VIDS, at gmail.com. All of these options are available to you. Feel free to contact us for anything like questions you want to pitch for the show, things you'd like us to do, suggestions, criticisms, any kind of promotional stuff or reviews you want us to do like we had last week. Feel free to
anything.
Feel
you
free
name
to,
it.
Feel free to contact us. Even here on YouTube, under the episode, we'd be more than happy to throw your topic into the show. And this week, our topic comes from Twitter user at WillJitsu91. Hashtag fan question. Love the podcast, very occasional comic book fan, so I haven't seen it myself, but have comics become as politicized as the rest of entertainment media? Fantastic episode, by the way. So, thank you to WillJitsu91 out there, and we will address your topic here, even though it's tough to... it's something that's kind of tough to address sometimes. And the backlash potential is very huge, no matter what you do, or how rational you are, and stuff like this. First up, the premise is not have comic books become politicized. It's have comic books become as politicized as the rest of entertainment media. So I think that's a clear distinction we need to make before we even jump into it. Comic books have always had some kind of political thought to them, whether it was propaganda during the World War II, even into World War I. We had soldier comics almost exclusively during those years where, it's just some guy punching a Kraut in the face, and just all these different, kind of
Go and
biplane
deck old
books.
Adolf Hitler one but
Yeah.
good.
and Navy books and stuff like that, and in addition to your typical Dick Tracy type murder mystery books or whatever.
Ooh, Dick Tracy.
But there's always been kind of that political slant element in comic books. I mean, you really don't have to go much further than a few documentaries about the history of comic books. There's some really great ones that we'll probably do a review of before too long here. But have they become as politicized as the rest of media? That's hard to say because the rest of media has become very, very politicized, largely because of the last election in the United States, and kind of the even abroad
Yeah.
with the kind of Brexit issue in the UK, and the kind of issues between China and Japan with the South China Sea, and even North Korea finally attaining nuclear armaments. It's like all of these things kind of play into the overarching nature of artistic media, and it's
Yeah,
as you would expect, all of these things have become far more politicized.
right. One of the things that you'll notice is that these comic books are written by people. And as is the case many a time for any form of written or graphic media, there are going to be artists who are prone to basically writing or drawing what they're seeing in the news.
Yeah.
And to an extent, there is a way of doing that that can be more than just reporting the news in your own way. Like, for instance, I'm always going to go back to the comics that got me into comics, X-Men. X-Men, like, those have been a set of books that have always been somewhat politically charged because of the very nature of the premise. The premise being it is about a group of people who are considered different, born different, not normal in some way, shape, or form. In this book, they exaggerate that form of being different, and have thus made it so that in this book, we're going to have all of the people who are normal react to these different people as though they are disgusting aberrations, lesser than, and thus enter the Martin Luther King-esque character, Professor Charles Xavier, and the Malcolm X-esque character. God, that's another X. the Malcolm X-esque character, Magneto.
Yeah.
That level of political writing has always been there.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
I mean, you can even look to some of the most iconic stories on DC side too, like the Frank Miller epic, Dark Knight Returns.
yeah,
That entire book is just an analogy for the Cold War and the Cold War forces and the Reagan administration, doing kind of back-ended things without any kind of reprimand. And Superman kind of represents the U.S. government, and Batman kind of represents, a kind of vigilante-esque, need for accountability, for the people, who can't naturally defend themselves, and that's, if you read into what that book is about, and a lot of Frank Miller's works, it's a lot of it is just kind of criticism of U.S. government policy, particularly in the 80s. So, I mean, you really don't have to look that far to find examples of this in all sorts of comic media, whether it is like the social issues that X-Men kind of analogizes with its mutants, and the kind of dichotomy between Xavier and Magneto, as you stated, and then even the government forces that kind of create like Weapon X and try to, exploit these people to their advantage. Not unlike in the United States, we had programs in the military where they took black soldiers and experimented on them.
The Tuskegee experiments.
Yeah.
For those of you looking to us for a history lesson.
Yeah, and it's not the only example.
Right.
Now they're a little bit more fair. Now they experiment on everybody. Unless you're like a senator's kid or something.
Right.
Then you just get to sit stateside and have a good time.
Right. I'm no senator's son, no.
But
me.
There's examples of this stuff all over the place, and there's valid criticisms to be had. And I think it's great that this kind of discourse is going on. That being said, I I would say that comics have actually maybe lightened up, especially this past year on the whole political agenda drive and thing. There's a few exceptions, particularly in independent books. Like on Image, there's a book called Days of Hate, which we picked up and read, which has a very unique art style and has like the core of really good story aspects and the characters, but the whole premise is just so ridiculous. It's just the complete like wet dream of what some paranoid like ultra liberal person would think about Trump being elected. All the hell goes to fucking shit, and all the white supremacists. Remember, there's like a few hundred KKK members in the entire country of 350 million people.
They're a very small but very loud minority.
Yeah, but somehow their faction is somehow taken over the country in the span of like a year just because Trump was elected, and it's like that sort of like over the top ridiculousness. Even with like Dark Fang. Fang we thought was going to be kind of a fun, lighthearted like vampire book. And then it turned out to be this whole like eco-terrorism thing about how using the crude oil is destroying the world and blah blah blah. It's just
there's actually Marvel did something like right after going back to September 11th, 2001. Right after that, a lot of their books were very much about one, trying to unify the country and saying like they had villains like Magneto, who was at the time was really not much better than a terrorist himself.
No.
And they had characters like him showing up in the wreckage and saying like, even I would never do something this awful. Wait.
Lols. Lols.
Hold the fuck on.
Let's flip a few pages back here.
Now, comics, in one way or another, yes, they have political roots, and nowadays some of them still have a political slant to them. Would I say, are they as political as other forms of entertainment media? That I'm going to say that actually depends on, one, how subtle or how over the top or in your face with it other media is. Because lately, outside of channels that are specifically centered around being political and showing political stuff all of the time, I've seen it much less.
Yeah. I think there's been kind of so much, and you can probably attribute this to Twitter.
Yes.
We discussed it in a few episodes ago, I think episode 25, somewhere around there, 25, 26. We talked about this article where a few editors and former editors over at Marvel and some creators at Marvel and DC talked about how they had changed their stories actively in the middle of the process and watered down their books because they had gotten some Twitter feedback and they took it to heart. Probably shouldn't have, but they did, and decided to just toss their story out. And again, that's a problem with the business model more than anything. But they just completely threw their story away and ran away from the subject because they didn't want to offend one or two Twitter people, and they didn't want to take a chance on being culturally insensitive in one way or another. Which I think that in that way, the comics community has become more politicized because there is this direct avenue via social media for which to assault your creators if they do one thing you don't like in a single issue of a book. In that way, I think it's become far more politicized, and it really sucks because this stuff has always happened a little bit, but never to the extent that it is today. And I think creators either need to get a little bit more intestinal fortitude or they need to get off social media when it comes to these books, unless they change the business model entirely and just finish the book before they start releasing it. But
yes, can we please stop going back to something earlier in this channel, in this particular podcast? Stop putting things off. Stop delaying everything.
Yeah. All of this could
Oh
be
my
solved if
God.
you just contract it out, be like, here's an initial fee. This is what we're giving you to live on or whatever while you develop this book and everything else, and then we will give you a percentage of everything from the sales of this book, both the single issue titles that we break into 12 issues or 16 issues or 8 issues, whatever, and then the volume sales. You will get a
Yeah.
percentage.
Yeah,
Like all of that stuff will go to you. Here's your commission. You and this artist go off in your own corner and just work on this book for like 2 months. Get it done. Get everything finished.
yeah. People's probable reactions be damned. If you're gonna tell your story, tell your story.
Yeah. So in that
Ugh.
way, yes, things have become far more politicized. But in terms of the books themselves, I think it's become far less politicized. I think it's been almost kind of babied. I don't know what a good word for it is. Both DC, I mean, Marvel had a little bit of political foresight, as you would expect, since Marvel was a little bit better at addressing these sorts of things, whether
Yeah.
it be in like vigilantism and the Punisher, or social issues with the X-Men, or issues of poverty and those sorts of personal relationship issues with Spider-Man. Like all of this stuff is accountable. And in recent years, they've done a lot of kind of political friendly things in order to get kind of pats on the backs and Twitter approval and free press buzz,
Yeah.
like replacing the mainline characters with a black version or a Muslim version or a female version, or making a specific character newly gay or whatever the case may be, not really to serve a story, but just to get some accolades and get some free press.
Yeah.
That was definitely an issue, and I think it's kind of lightened up because they're trying to do this fresh start where they realized we did this for far too long. We pressed the issue with too many characters that sell our books, and now we're kind of seeing the aftershock of it. And I think now they're finally correcting course a little bit with this fresh start, where they are still having these characters and diversifying their cast, which is great, but they're not doing it in a way that's going to just fuck all the classic characters and give two big middle fingers to your fans of the past 70, 80 years.
Right.
With DC,
It's not like there's an easy remedy for that or anything. Like
yeah.
making a new character.
Yeah, and I think DC has also had this a little bit, and I think the New Age of DC Heroes is another example of that kind of like accolade searching, even if it's kind of a ripoff.
Yeah.
But I think both companies have gone from like hitting hard-hitting topics like protesting. I can't remember what book it is. I think it's an X-Men spin-off book, but they had a creator. I think the artist happened to be Muslim, and he put some. I'll put articles here for you on the YouTube channel so you can know what I'm referencing. But he put like a verse in the Quran.
And
some of his
X-Men
artwork.
Gold.
Yeah, and the art,
Yeah.
and you go to the verse, it's basically just like kill all the infidels.
I
and
have that issue.
Wow, that's collectible, man. Don't let that go. But like basically, people saw that and like they realized what it meant, and there's a huge backlash, which there should be. And Marvel had to fire him because he was, putting in these like secret messages in his artwork that all non-Muslims need to be slaughtered and stuff.
It didn't help that there's a panel in which Kitty Pryde shows up, and they literally have the part of the word jewelry that specifically says Jew
Ugh,
right over top her head.
wow. So yeah, there was, and that's at the most progressive like comic book company out there right now.
Yeah,
And
that was rough.
that was a huge controversy. But I'd say like strictly politically, as far as like the president of the United States or Brexit and Britain and Europe and all these different kind of international politics and stuff, I'd say it's been far less politicized. Culturally, socially, diversifying, addressing like religious issues like that, kind of slipping little secret Muslim murder messages in the back of the issues. Like, Kind of sad. The guy was a good artist. He should.
Yeah.
If he hadn't done something stupid like that, he would have been fine. He could have put any verses
He-
that weren't.
Yeah,
or,
he
you know,
literally
soliciting the
could have
murder
put
of people.
anything else.
Yeah. But he chose that route to go, and he felt that was the best avenue to spread his extremist message. So I was like, okay.
Okay, my biggest question is specifically on that issue. If you're going to put that on anyone, why are you putting that on Colossus's shirt?
I don't know. I don't know.
Like, why would he wear that other
you
than
realize what Russia has done. But yeah, so
yeah.
in those ways, I think, yes, there's been a little bit of it, but it's been far less than other forms of media. But in contrast, I think there's also some criticism to be had about the books being babied down a lot, especially post the New 52 for the DC comics. Like, everything became like babyfied because New 52 tried to like capitalize on the kind of dark, grounded, centric ideas that DC has been traditionally known for, and I think in a lot of ways it was good. It made some missteps for sure, but there was so many fucking books. It's hard not to make a misstep or two. But I think they handled it well. But then they just started babyfying things as like people were, oh, where's my red underpants for Superman? Oh, why aren't any of the DC comics fun like Marvel? I'm like, if you want to read Marvel books, read Marvel books. Don't complain that the DC books aren't Marvel books, you know? And I think that's primarily what happened. And DC folded in because of this reactionary social media age. And they just like babyfied everything and made everything into like a stupid cartoon. You know, everything, all the outfits are goofy and like cartoony and comical. It's like the 50s again. And like Barbara Gordon is probably the most obvious example of this.
Yeah, she suffers the most.
I love the Gail Simone New 52 Batgirl, where they brought back Barbara Gordon post surgery. She used to be Oracle, but they found a way to
fix
her back. And she's getting back into the mantle. She's still dealing with the physical therapy issues of like regaining her body and learning how to walk and fight and talk. And, she's still the brilliant strategic character that she's always been. She has the dynamic with her father, of course. She has the dynamic with her mother who left her. She has the dynamic with Dick, obviously. Up until Jeff Johns got his hand on him.
No.
Leave Nightwing alone. But she was awesome. Gail Simone wrote an awesome character. The art aesthetic was realistic, and she had an actual protective suit. And then they just decided to cartoonify everybody and go just full socially friendly, geopolitically friendly, a little bit left-leaning with everything, and everything became a baby-down, watered-down nonsense story where there's no struggle for any of the characters, and all the characters overcome everything without an issue. And like, we had the Bluebird come in, who was a female Nightwing, basically with a gun, and then we had the Signal recently. Or is that right?
Yeah,
the
Signal.
The new black character who's basically a yellow Batman, and then obviously the Batman Inc. stuff was all cartoony to begin with, but they were overboard cartoony once DC started adjusting. So there's examples of this all over the place where it's had an effect, and there are kind of echoes of what's going on in the real world. But
you can definitely see if you're not seeing the effects turn into political or politically charged comic books, you can definitely see the effects of having had politically charged comic books in the past and them wanting to lean a bit away from that.
Yeah. And like I feel like comic books is one of the few mediums where you can have a modern on-topic kind of political dynamic, because it is so recent. When you develop a TV show, if you develop, obviously not a nightly show or something, but
right,
when you develop a TV show, that episode's not going to premiere for months, if not a year or something,
Yeah.
And so you're kind of behind the times when it comes to these kind of political topics and diversity topics and cultural norm topics. Same with movies and even music. Like often music just comes out, way after the what it wants to talk about was initially started. Whether it's protests or elections or wars, whatever have you. But comics are one of those few mediums, due to their terrible business model, mind you, where they do kind of have the opportunity to jump right in, without any kind of hindsight 2020 correction going on,
and just be immediately like a book that takes a stance.
Yeah. And I don't begrudge anybody, including like the Days of Hate creator. Like I don't begrudge anybody for taking a chance, because that's what the medium's for. It's for taking a chance,
Yeah.
And you create these monthly. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, so be it. But I think comic books are one of the few mediums that has the volume of titles and the quick turnout to accurately address kind of the political scape or the cultural landscape as it is right now, and becomes kind of like a time capsule that we've talked about before.
Yeah. It can be a reflection of the times.
Exactly. And you look back to comics in the 80s, everything's kind of like over the top, and everything's about big government and America versus Russia, and like that's what the books reflect, and it's reflective of the times. And the 90s are more like carefree, kind of loose, and like everybody's big and ultra muscled, and just everybody's a different color for some reason, and like all the goofy crazy stuff is happening, but then like
it's all about standing out and being yourself.
Yeah, and there's some like really creative, unique ideas as opposed to just Russia versus US for everything, So you can see that kind of dichotomy from the 80s into the 90s. If you go back into the 70s, everything's like an espionage thing. Everything wants to be a spy book of some sort,
Thank you, Cold War.
Because of the Cold War, exactly. And because we have this international spying thing going on. There's stuff about like the fuel crisis, and like everything is rotating around this kind of espionage slash resource heavy storylines.
Yeah.
And then you bleed into the 60s, where a lot of stuff is about like the changing times, protests, new diverse characters and people coming up and rising up and empowering themselves, breaking free from the kind of goofy era of the 50s where everything was watered down and super like comically terrible. And everything was great, chum. All you need is America and a white sack of legs. Like just like everything was goofy and horrible, but it reflects the times, the overwhelming influence of the time. And I think even the 2000s kind of reflect the kind of post 9/11 era where everybody's concerned about terrorism, and everybody's worried about small pockets of domestic issues, where you have these small pockets of domestic terrorists and international terrorists, and you have this kind of more dark and cynical look at the world. And I think the 2010s have kind of lifted away from that a little bit, and everything's kind of becoming that kind of like 90s-ish kind of like loose, goofy era again, where
it's kind of a return to that.
But we have all the kind of social like concerns going on, and so we have like the trans villain in the Batgirl book that didn't work out so well, unfortunately.
Damn.
And then we had like the diversified versions of classic characters, and like even though it's not to my taste, and I think it's blatantly just like an excuse for free press and free advertisement and accolades and pats on the back, instead of good storytelling, which is what I would like to see. I don't begrudge them for going for it, because it's reflective of the time. It's reflective of the stories that want to be told right now.
There's always going to be an element of risk.
Yeah. So in those terms, I don't begrudge anybody for pursuing a political kind of angle to their books or the storytelling or the characters, as long as it makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't want to see a big story about how Colossus is like the most American fucking guy ever, and he I don't want to see something silly like that just doesn't make sense,
or Secret Empire. Can we just maybe skip that completely and say
don't you want Captain a Nazi?
No,
he's your favorite.
I do not want a book that's conclusion was to take this Captain America, who was secretly a Nazi, and then beat him up with another Captain America. Guys.
So yeah,
Ugh.
I think they're, hypothetically speaking, if I was a creator right now, there are things I would want to write about. The biggest thing is free speech.
Yes.
Right now, free speech is the biggest thing under assault. If you look, you don't even have to look that far for us. You look north of the border to Canada, and people are literally getting arrested and thrown in jail because they want to say something that is not politically correct at the moment or something.
Yes, and Britain, the same thing's happening.
Yeah. So you don't have to look that far to see this kind of overwhelming wash of kind of censorship. And thankfully in the United States we have the First Amendment to protect us, but sometimes the political system and the kind of judicial system doesn't do people favors in that regard, you know. You could sit in prison for 10 years waiting for the Supreme Court to overturn whatever ruling that your local government decided to put against you, you know.
Yeah.
So it's very divisive, and at the moment it seems to be kind of the far left wings, you know, trying to censor people from saying anything that could potentially be too hurtful or not using the proper pronouns for your gender or what, these sorts of silly nonsensical things.
It's
But
language policing.
but it's not something that's new to the far right of our country either, because they've also, usually for kind of religious reasons, you know, kind of religious purity reasons, you know, you can't talk about this or that, you know, not so much unlike the whole like Muslim controversy where you can't talk about Muhammad, you can't draw Muhammad, what's wrong with you? We'll fucking cut off your head, you ditz. So,
Like, wait, hold on. That's always going to be the response that I have to, wait, you're saying that I can't do that? No, this is America. Freedom of speech.
But-
I'm gonna take away all of my rights except for that one, and I will, through that one, eventually get all my rights back.
yeah, and like I think those are the big issues that need to be addressed in comics and all of media right now. It's the freedom of speech, the freedom of expression, the freedom to protest, you know?
Yeah.
I don't like seeing these fucking police fucking beating the shit out of people because they went and protested with a sign or something at their city's capital. That's bullshit. That is breaking the First Amendment
Right, blatantly.
and belligerently, for all to see, nonetheless. And I think that's just as wrong as, you know, trying to censor some bigot who wants to shout from his soapbox, you know? Like,
Right.
if he wants to shout from his soapbox and he's an American citizen in this country, let him. He's allowed to shout from his soapbox.
That is literally
if he wants to go to
his right
yeah.
in this country.
If some university wants to allow him onto their campus to have some debate, it's not the local, you know, police force's job to go and stop him from doing so. He's gonna talk. The best thing you can do to a bigot is ignore them. Like, that's my mantra. If you censor them, it's gonna lead you down a slippery slope where you're censoring anybody that the kind of louder groups in our society deem, you know, not tolerable. And you're seeing that in Canada. You're seeing that in Great Britain, and you know, to me, that's no different than a dictatorship or a communist nation. You know, not allowing people to search certain things on the internet or say certain things in their newspapers without disappearing. You know, it's the same thing.
Right.
It's just the escalation of the fact, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the most important thing in our current cultural and political climate. I don't know if you agree, but to me, the freedom of speech and expression and art is critically important. I think comic books are the biggest example of something that needs to be protected. Yeah.
That is actually quite literally, I think the well, not that I think, I know this to be a fact. The only reason why we do have laws and elections and all that is because the founding fathers of this country saw fit to, before listing anything in this newly established Bill of Rights that they had back in 1776
Yeah.
was the freedom of speech, of freedom of public assembly, freedom of there are a few other parts to that First Amendment, but it is all about being
Freedom
able to
of religion, freedom of expression, freedom of
Yeah.
belief. You know, as long as you
Yeah.
are not harming others directly, like,
Right.
you are allowed to do and
You-
say and believe what you want.
Right. That is literally the foundation upon which the Bill of Rights was settled.
Yeah.
It was like if it wasn't for the necessity of the freedom to say what it is on your mind, or to be a potentially dissenting voice, then we would still be a part of the British Empire.
Yeah. And I understand there are valid criticisms of things. You know, people bring up the Second Amendment as the most frequent one. Like, oh, they didn't have, you know, automatic weapons, you know, fully automatic weapons like we have today, obviously. Yes, there were.
They would have
like,
wanted them.
There are some, yeah, there are some like remote like Gatling gun prototypes and stuff that were around, but they, you know, that wasn't a widespread thing or an easily storable thing.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. There were prototypes back then that just did not work.
Yeah.
So that
The,
say what you want about that amendment. That is that is amendment number 2 for one good reason,
yeah.
and that's because we didn't argue our way into having our own country.
Yeah. And there's arguments to be made about the Electoral College, you know, back in the 1700s when the system was built and created, and very much established. Most of the people in the country lived in the country. They did not live in cities. It was about 20/80, and now that ratio is flipped. And
Yeah.
so before, the cities were heavily dependent on the rural areas, but with the Electoral College, they had a little bit of a voice, so they didn't get completely crushed by
Right.
rural interests. And now we have the opposite thing going on today, where we have the rural interests kind of, you know, trying not to be crushed by the urban interests, but because of the Electoral College, they have far more power than they should. The biggest example being the popular votes, where
Right.
George W. Bush lost the popular vote to Al Gore, yet
And he was still made the president of the United States.
because of a Florida controversy and
Right.
barely winning the Electoral College. The most recent election with President Trump, Trump lost the popular vote. The majority of American voters that went to the polls
Voted
for Hillary Clinton
yeah.
or somebody else. President Trump did not win the popular vote, but because of our Electoral College and the disproportionate amount of rural influence we have gained, he won the Electoral College by quite a bit. And that's a big reflection of the issues of gerrymandering, which are only an issue with the Electoral College, and issues with the kind of dynamic where we've gone from having a minority urban population to a majority urban population, which is not what the forefathers intended when they created the Electoral College. So there are very, very good arguments to be made in, you know, for me, I feel like we need a runoff vote because our version of democracy was a very experimental one and
Yes, it
failed.
was.
It failed the first time, which is why we had the Articles of Confederation and had to throw them out and start anew, illegally, mind you. Our
Yeah.
politicians did this illegally.
Yeah. About that. Fun fact. In publications that were showing up way back when, even those had artists
Mm-hmm.
that were making their own political comic strips.
Yes, frequently and famously.
Yeah.
Well, you open up any history book and see them. So
Oh, yeah.
arts and comics in general are very, very important and critical to not only encapsulating what's going on in the current era, but also to kind of give feedback to the populace, give voice to the populace of what might need readjusted and what might need corrected, what, you know, shouldn't be corrected and what doesn't need to be overemphasized, you know. And
like, how can we maybe exaggerate an image so as to maybe provoke a thought
yeah.
about something happening?
And I mean, there's even things that have been going on since 2001, 2002 that we need to address as a population here in the United States, like the Patriot Act.
Yeah.
The Patriot Act tramples all over the amendment, saving us from illegal search and seizure. The Patriot Act says, fuck you, it's an emergency, so we're going to do what we fucking want. If you read the Patriot Act, it basically stomps all over the Bill of Rights.
Yeah.
It is a thing that is in law until the United States says, whatever. But it's never going to be changed in the current situation because no one's looking at it anymore. It's been 20 years. There are things that are far more important that I think need to be addressed than using the correct pronouns and stuff like that. There are things that are crucial.
Stamping or stomping all over the Constitution?
Yeah. I mean, there's stuff like the internet, the fight over the internet. There's so many issues that are far more important, far more critically involved. You have your issues of the United States constantly sticking its nose in other countries. You have the issues of Russia constantly sticking its nose in other countries and also invading another country in the form of Crimea.
Yeah, actively.
And unashamedly. You have the issues with nuclear proliferation where, you're never going to stop the scientific progress of time in every country. And doing so might be a civil rights issue to begin with,
Yeah. It's like preventing other countries from developing.
So the real question is, how do we stop the interests of countries from developing these things, whether it be trade agreements or whatever else? How can you incentivize preventing these things from happening and protecting everybody from the use of these munitions? Like in the United States, we have kind of the anti-ballistic missile systems everywhere, which Russia has hated. And now they're advertising that they have this submarine version that goes underwater and then pops up and hits you from under the shore so you can't shoot it down. Like, it's just an escalation of nonsense and force.
Yes.
These are things that need to be addressed, both in real life politics and in the general political discussion and protest and political discourse, but also need to be addressed in our art. And I feel like we're overemphasizing things that don't actually matter in the form of small factions of bigots that number probably in the hundreds,
if that,
in the country. Small, what they call microtransgressions, stuff like that. Censorship of people's language because you don't like a pronoun or you don't like a word, or you think something is too insensitive. Picking apart every little thing that you can. It's just, there are examples everywhere where we're, I think, as a community, overemphasizing the wrong things. We have a crippling amount of debt in this country, trillions and trillions of dollars, and the new budget that just got signed by a conservative Congress
upped the debt ceiling,
is going to increase the debt by another $2 trillion. That is outrageous. That is unsustainable. You have the medical issues in this country where nobody can afford a simple hospital visit because of the amount it costs and how much a privately held medical sector is just not functional in the modern day world with 350 million people. There are very important questions that need to be addressed and asked, with pollution. That's a big one, with all the fracking everywhere. There's all these sinkholes opening everywhere and putting different kind of heavy metals in our deep system waterways, and that we're told are going to be sealed off properly, but have you looked at BP? They don't have the best history with that sort of thing. So there are very serious and important questions that need to be addressed. Education. What are we going to do with all of these robots consistently taking more and more of our work and more of our work being shipped overseas because they're more affordable labor?
Right.
There's self-driving cars and trucks coming up. Like,
a self-driving car killed someone.
That is a huge industry that is about to be overtaken. Taxi services, truck drivers, all of these things are going to be taken over by automated systems before too long. Even like the light train systems, that Elon Musk is developing everywhere.
Yeah.
Like, these are very important questions. We are going to have a huge population that cannot work because there is nothing to work for.
Right.
We're going to have a far too educated and underskilled population for the needs of the future, and that's a huge problem. These are questions that need to be addressed. I don't think, what the proper way to, address someone's, pronoun is that important in the scheme of things.
Right.
You just make a choice whether to be a kind person, be like, what would you like me to call you? And they say this, and you're like, all right, no problem. Or you can be a dick about it. Doesn't matter. In the scheme of the world and the country
Ultimately,
and your neighbors,
yeah.
it's not going to fucking matter.
No.
There are far more important things. The opioid crisis, like it's just
yes.
all over the Midwest, like obesity, just examples everywhere of things that do need to be addressed and do need to be talked about in comics. And instead of maybe glorifying people who are obese, maybe instead of doing that, we should talk about solutions. Because it is a health issue. It is not a good thing.
Right.
It is
like maybe
it's not something to aspire to.
addressing nutrition and the gross lack of education on that subject.
I mean, being obese, some people do have, genetic issues or whatever the case may be, but being obese shaves about 2 or 3 decades off your lifetime. And not only does that cripple you with medical costs and medical care and upkeep and maintenance and food costs, but it also troubles any kind of children you may have,
Yeah.
who have to suffer through it, and watching you just decay and die slowly from things like heart disease and artery and vein damage and brain damage. Like, there are just all sorts of things that cripple families, and especially in a country that has terrible medical debt everywhere.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many more important things to address, and I wish they would be addressed. And if I was a creator, I absolutely would address. But I think that's a good place to leave it. What do you think?
Long story short, comics could always get more political. And are they as political as the current other forms of media out there? Depends on what you watch.
Yeah. Obviously, if you watch fucking Fox News or CNN or, MSNBC all day long, you're going to get a very different picture
Yes.
of the status quo. If I had one recommendation to any person listening, don't watch those shows. Don't watch those channels.
Those are literally classified as entertainment officially with the FCC.
Yeah, they're entertainment channels. They're there to speak to an echo chamber and entertain you and nothing else. They're not there to educate you. They're not there to help you. They're
Not even a little bit.
They're there to reassure you that your personal beliefs are correct no matter what.
Right.
So I would go to public sources, nonprofit sources. NPR is a great source. BBC is a great source. Do not use these ridiculous stations to educate yourself or justify your opinions.
Right. That's
Look into things yourself. There are studies that are publicly available everywhere.
right.
There are events that are publicly available everywhere. You do not need to rely on these kind of couch popcorn entertainment channels to.
Much like your diet, your education should also come balanced.
And when I say balanced, I don't mean watch MSNBC and Fox. That's not what I mean. That's
Yeah,
like, I'm
no.
going to smoke cigarettes and drink liquor all day. Like, no, they're both bad for you. Stop.
Yeah, those
Just
are both
stop.
bad.
Just stop. But yeah, I think that's a great long topic to end on.
Yeah.
Apologize that this episode this week is a little bit shorter than usual, but hey, you don't have to sit through a 3-hour podcast.
Hooray!
It'll be longer next week because we'll actually have read more comics and probably make up some comics for this week.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to write into us and give us a topic, be sure to check out our Twitter at HTBvids, our Facebook at facebook.com/hitthebooks. Here down in the comments on YouTube, all you have to do is hit like and subscribe to stay with us. Or you can email us at hitthebooksvids, VIDS, all one word, at gmail.com. And we've launched a Patreon a few weeks ago.
Hooray!
you would be so kind as to consider contributing to the show and help us sustain things, because there are monthly costs that do
Incur.
put us back a little bit. We do this as a passion project, but it would be nice if we didn't have to spend so much money to do it. You can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/hitthebooks, all one word. I'll put it here on the screen on our YouTube channel. Remember, you can catch us on Stitcher, on iTunes, on YouTube, maybe SoundCloud soon, maybe Vimeo soon, but I'm still working out like what they demand of you. Some of them demand like subscriptions from the creators, which would just be more costs that we can't sustain.
Right.
So until we get a little bit bigger, I don't think those ones are going to be touched too much. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit like and subscribe, especially the subscribe button there. We're trying to get that vanity URL, but you can't do it until you have a certain number of subscribers, and that would really go a long way to helping us advertise the show and promote it and grow the community a little bit more. We have the different tiers on Patreon if you want to help us out there, so be sure to check those out. We have a lot more content in the chamber for you. It's just a matter of time, really.
Oh, yeah.
I think I've covered everything. Have I covered all the bases?
First, second, third. Let's slide on home.
I want to thank you all once again for sticking with us. I'm your host, Chris Holcomb.
And I'm Emery Saunders.
And this is Bob. Thank you for watching. See you next week.
On Hit the Books.